So I guess I'm recording. Paula. Yeah. Okay, so I'm recording now. So now we're in the next chapter after product differentiation, which is price discrimination. Now we're going into product differentiation, which is a lecture on product variety and quality. So we will talk about horizontal product differentiation, especially for today. In fact, probably hindi natin matatapos yung horizontal product differentiation because it's such an important topic. It's going to be hard to finish it in the next like 25 minutes. And it will be a spatial approach, so very interesting. So this is the hoteling model, essentially, which is a workhorse sa industrial organization, horizontal product differentiation. Okay. Then we'll talk about monopoly and product differentiation, kung ano yung gustong gawin ni monopoly when it comes to the number of varieties that it offers, right? And then we will talk about it from a social planner point of view, yung optimal number of product varieties. And you will see na iba yun when the monopolist has a decision on how many varieties to offer versus, say, a social planner that maximizes total welfare. The number of varieties will be different, as you will see. And then you will have horizontal product differentiation with price discrimination. So what happens when the seller is able to price discriminate in the spatial model? So this one probably will not reach this one. Next week na yun. And then next week na rin itong vertical product differentiation. Okay. But these are what we will be talking about for these slides here. Okay, so these are some key ideas. So a multi-product firm is likely to be the norm rather than the exception. So a firm like a monopolist would probably sell many varieties of a similar product. So this begs the issue, how many varieties should a firm aim to offer? So many varieties of a similar or the same product is a way for firms to appeal and to sell to consumers with very different tastes. So this is the same notion as this one, horizontal product differentiation here. Let me just do this. Horizontal product differentiation here, which is, right? That's when a firm offers a variety of products in response to different consumer tastes as a strategy. So basic ideas here will be like if you go to a grocery store and you're buying sardines, and then there are multiple kinds of varieties of sardines. There are different can sizes for one. There are different flavors and other things that sort of differentiate the same product, essentially the same product. So yun yung horizontal product differentiation. Meanwhile, see, vertical product differentiation is when a firm responds to differences in consumer willingness to pay for a quality of a product by offering different qualities of the same product. Okay. Consumers may also differ in how much a desired feature is worth to them. So some features such as anti-lock brakes, first-class amenities, okay, those would have different qualities. Okay? And if you have these different qualities of the product, quality levels of the product, then the firm would want to offer this and offer different prices for all of these different products. So one of the key things here is that see, horizontal is really a response to different consumer tastes, but for the same level of quality. Okay. Whereas vertical product differentiation is you're appealing to different levels of quality, and each level of quality will be worth more or less to different consumers. Okay, so that's vertical versus horizontal product differentiation. So for today, we will just discuss horizontal product differentiation. Okay. Horizontal product differentiation. So consumers agree on the quality of the product being considered and on their willingness to pay for the product. Okay. So the quality of it, and it's the same product, no problem. But consumers differ with respect to specific features of the product that makes it attractive to them. Okay. So it's a consumer-centric sort of point of view. So pwedeng location of the product, pwedeng the color, could be the packaging, okay, could be the flavor of the product, etc. So all of these things will change how much it's attractive to you. Okay. And it will change essentially your sort of net valuation of the product. Okay. Example of horizontal product differentiation. Here is the location where the good is sold. A product sold close to home is different from one that is sold far away. Right? So the idea is, even if it's the same product, same quality, everything, if it's closer to home, then it's in a sense better than the one that is further away from home. Okay. Another way of viewing this is that each consumer has his or her own preferred location of the shop of the product, namely one close to your own home address. Okay. So what we'll be using here is this spatial approach. So instead of thinking about it in terms, we can think about it in terms of distance or your location in a street, for example, okay, in a two-dimensional space. So a consumer market is differentiated by geographic location, and a firm can vary its product strategy by its choice of where the product is sold in that geographic location. So you could have one central location versus many locations spaced throughout the city. With a central location, those who do not live near the center of the town have to incur travel costs. With many locations, you allow consumers from different locations to purchase without going too far out of their way. So those are the trade-offs, right? If it's if you're selling at a central location, those who do not live near the center have to incur travel costs. They have to travel towards the central location. But if you have many locations, you don't have to, consumers don't have to travel all the way to the central location. There's probably a store closer to them. Okay. But then, as we will see, having many locations has a cost to the monopolist, because you have to set up the location per location. There's a fixed cost to setting up a location along product space, or in this case, a geographic space. So when traveling is costly, consumers are willing to pay more for the product marketed close to their geographic location. Okay. So I think this is the key idea here, right? And that traveling or moving, traveling is costly, meaning consumers who are away or at a different location than the seller, okay, will have to pay more for the product, okay, because traveling from the location of the consumer to the location of the seller is costly. And the further away the seller is, the more costly it is. So if you have a choice between two sellers, one is closer than the other, you will pay more for the product close to your geographic location, because it's costlier to move away or to move to the farther one. Now, we will see exactly what this means in a moment. Now, this geographic space can be transformed into a product or a characteristic space. Okay, in such a space, each consumer's location reflects the consumer's most preferred set of product characteristics. The travel cost of the geographic model can be interpreted as a psychic or utility cost that the consumer incurs if she would buy a good whose characteristics are far from her most preferred type. Okay. So what this slide is saying is basically we will be thinking about this in a spatial way, in a geographic way. But yung interpretation niya is broader than that. It can be in terms of your location in this line or in this space is telling you what your preferred set of characteristics are. And the further away you are from your location, the more costly it is because you're moving further and further away from your preferred type. So you can think about it in terms of, let's say, again, sardines, right? You want a certain type of sardine, you want a certain flavor, you want a certain size. And if you have to buy another flavor, another brand, for example, another size, another mix, then that means that you're paying a cost to buy that. Okay. And that's what the travel cost, quote unquote, the travel cost is interpreted here under a characteristic space approach. Okay. Okay, so having said that, babalik tayo sa geographic interpretation. So meron tayong main street, which is a street, and you can just draw a line. Okay, so let's say it's 1 mile in length, although it's arbitrary how long it is. But usually it's just 1, okay, 0 to 1. Okay, yung length niya is 1. Next, you have end consumers spaced evenly along the road from end to end. Okay, so all the consumers live evenly along the road from 0 to 1. The monopolist, is there a picture here? Okay, so in this case, erase all of this first. This is the road, 0 to 1, and all of the consumers live evenly here. Okay. And this is your market, essentially. Okay. Now, the monopolist decides on what range of products to bring to the market and their prices. So the monopolist must choose the number of outlets it will operate, the number of products, and where it should be located along Main Street, the characteristics of the product, and what price should be charged. Next is that there is no price discrimination. Transport costs are T per unit of distance. Identical consumers except for their address or location. Each consumer buys 1 unit of the product, provided the full price, the price plus transport costs, is less than each consumer's reservation price V. And identical consumers, so all consumers have the same reservation price V. Yun yung valuation nila for V. Okay, so in this case, we're ready now to sort of absorb this picture. Okay, so in this case, like we said, we have the street from 0 to 1. Yung decision ni business, ni monopolist, is how many shops and where on the street to set up. So this picture first is a picture of one shop. And it will make sense for the monopolist to be in the center here. Okay. Nasa 1/2 siya. That means there are equal number of consumers to the left and an equal number of consumers to the right. What else is the decision-making? What else falls under the decision-making of the monopolist? So not only the number, not only where, but the number. So in this case, we have one shop, and where it is, it's here. And it also needs to decide on the price. So the price here is indicated by the vertical length of this line, right? Okay. So let's say he decides to set the price P1. So at this point, if your price is P1, then you think about it in terms of the consumers now, and you think about, okay, if I am a consumer who lives here, right? which is not the same as 1/2. But if I were to go and travel to the shop, which resides in 1/2, ano yung ibabayad ko kay monopolist? Well, I'd have to pay this distance times T. Okay, this distance times T plus the price. So yun yung total price of consuming the product. Let's further think. Let's say, for example, you're super lucky. As a consumer, you live exactly here at the same address as the producer at 1/2. Wala ka nang ibabayad the transport cost kasi your location is exactly at the shop's location. So you will only pay P1. So the further away you are, to the right or to the left, you have to pay T times your location. Okay, so that's what this means. Ngayon, yung papapansin ninyo, this P plus TX and then P plus TX, kasi it's symmetric sa kaliwa at kanan, it affects it. But at some point, this P plus TX will hit the value V. Okay, and that's where we get this X1. So you get the X1, this X1 here. So itong X1 tsaka itong X1, this represents consumers who are indifferent between buying and not buying. The consumers who live here on the interior, okay, closer to the shop, are they buying or not buying? They're buying, okay, because their V, or your total willingness to pay, is exceeding the total price. But once you're here in this area, the total price exceeds V. So ayaw na nila. So these guys are buying, these guys are not buying. Okay. So in this case, meron tayong first example. The monopolist decides to operate only one outlet. Makes sense to locate this at the center of the street because it will make sure that on either side may bibili, and that it minimizes those people's transactions cost or transport cost. It would also mean that your price will be higher if you're willing to sell. If you want to sell to a lot or to everyone, your price is the highest when you're in the center than if you're in the edges. So for example, if you're in the edge and you decide to sell to everyone, kailangan mababa yung presyo mo. Because here, I'm just gonna, for example, if your price is here, right? The only way to sell to everyone, wait, here. Right, is to set a lower price than if you were here. So mas advantageous na nasa gitna ka, because if you were to sell to everyone, mas mataas yung presyo mo than if you were to locate anywhere else other than the center. In particular, you have the extremes here of the borders. Pag nasa border ka and then you're selling to everyone, you have to set your price low such that the total price plus transport cost, even for the person who lives the furthest away from you, will still buy. You would. Okay, so let's just finish this slide and then we're done. Westernmost residence has an address of 0. Easternmost is 1. The store is located in 1/2. The full price is P1 plus TX. The full price rises steadily above 1 for consumers both east and west. For a distance of less than 1, consumer's reservation price, X1, the consumer's reservation price, V, exceeds the full price, and the consumer buys the product. Those located further do not buy. Okay. So we will continue. I'll continue with the discussion on YouTube starting here on page 11, and then I'll probably divide the rest of those videos into two. One another just to finish this horizontal price, and then the second one for vertical price. Okay, so since it's 9:54, let's start.